We are live. Welcome back to another live stream from around Mijas. I have Mario Bravo, my good friend and colleague, with me today. And as always, Mario joins us right after the council meetings. Well, normally, last time it was before the council meeting because they
Mhm.
changed the dates. And we're going to pick up on some of the themes that were kind of floating around the council meeting yesterday. It was 4 hours long, Mario. Do you think it had
Yes.
to be 4 hours long?
Hello, Bill. In fact, the monthly meeting only lasted 1 hour because the government only bring very few items. It
Right.
took longer to reply to our questions and also to discuss the situation of this doctor that the town hall pays for in Mijas village to work there during the night. This lady was appointed as a reference in Mijas village, and now apparently the town hall wants to cancel her contract. So about 1,200 signatures were collected. Apparently the mayor ignored them, and that got many people angry, and they were there on the pleno with us. So it was not only the 25 councillors and the two main civil servants, there
Mhm.
were also about 20 or 30 people from Mijas village.
And apparently there were about 30 or so that were refused entry to the public gallery.
Correct, even though we had 120 seats before, now we only have 80 because they created a press set. Out
Right.
of those 80, only 30 or 40 were occupied. Later, we knew that they stopped some 30 or 40 other people to go in. Possibly they didn't want too much hassle. There was four
Yeah.
policemen, I think, in case someone was shouting too much, I guess.
Yeah, I think the people that wanted to come in about this issue of the doctor, a lot of people probably don't know about this, Mario, that Mijas Pueblo has a sort of out of hours doctor paid for by the council and has had for some time now, haven't they?
Yes, well, let me explain. In Spain, the Social Security, the medical assistance is granted by the regional government. We
Right.
have the national government, the regional government, and the local government. And I know it is difficult, and possibly that's why it has been designed this way, so people can always blame each other. So, going to facts, the regional government opened this medical center in Las Lagunas that everybody knows, which is open 24 hours a day. You can go under an ordinary scheme with your usual doctor, or if you have a problem at the middle of the night, you can go there.
Mm,
But both in La Cala and in Mijas village, those health centers are only open during office hours,
yeah,
possibly up to 6 o'clock p.m. So the town hall of Mijas, possibly more than 20 years ago, thought that it could be a good idea to subsidize the employment of a doctor to cover the nights in Mijas village. Why? Because there is a lot of old population, many of them without cars, who may find difficult to go down to Las Lagunas in case of emergency.
yeah,
And this lady called Sladana, that came from Yugoslavia around the 92 or 93, when there were problems in that country, has become a real meeting point in Mijas, and everybody loves her.
yeah,
That's why the town hall appointed her as hijo adoptivo. This is something that some cities make to people who haven't born there but deserve to be a member of the city. And so she was
yeah.
appointed like that.
It's a bit like giving people the keys to the city in British speak, isn't it? Yeah.
Here we don't give them the key, we give them the meaning, the belonging to the city. They are like one more of us.
You give them a piece of paper.
Yes,
Yeah.
and also and
It is
perhaps a
famous,
medal
oh, Mario.
and a hug, everything except money. But that's why people is so angry now, because the same government that appointed her with that honor 1.5 years ago is now getting rid of her. And
Right.
we believe that there are many ways to try to keep her working there. She is still, well, not very young, but she still has some years to keep working. And she is the best that has happened to many people in Mijas,
Yeah.
because she has become not only a doctor to cure a problem, also as a preventive person, to give
Right.
you a lot of guidelines.
Hmm.
And that's why they have collected 1,200 signatures. The mayor, as usual, said the service will not be cancelled, will be improved. Fine, but people were not asking about the service. The people were asking about the person.
About the
And the
person.
mayor preferred to ignore that question, which
Right.
is a pity.
Right. And I have to say, I know this is a complicated one, but I think all of us living in Mijas, and I'm thinking about from El Faro right down through La Cala and up into Riviera, would also like to have fairly quick access to an evening medical service. There's a lot of elderly people living in the urbanizations as well,
Of
and
course.
we have health centers, but they, as you say, they close at the end of business hours, and uh, I think I know this is complex because the council really shouldn't be paying for doctors, should they?
Correct, but going back to La Cala, as you mentioned, which is also surrounded by foreigners, it is a waste of money to make a building with a lot of expensive machines and use it only 40 hours a week.
Yeah,
So it is true that we all want a hospital, fine, but in the meantime, couldn't we use this building a little bit more? Because if we just want to employ doctors and pay also a little bit more of electricity to have that building open more hours, this is something that can be done tomorrow with no contamination. Now that ecology and all that is considered, instead of making a new building, why don't we use 24 hours the existing building,
sure.
which is immediate and less contaminating than building another one. It
Yeah.
is better to enlarge and to use the existing infrastructure rather than making new ones, at least for the time being.
Sure, Mario. Okay, listen, there were a number of things that were kind of touched on yesterday. Oh, yeah, we got a message from Sue here saying we desperately need a hospital. She had her appendix out in the Costa del Sol 2 weeks ago, and all of the following checkups are all in Marbella. And again, that is complicated. If people don't have their own transport, for example, it would be great to have uh, either a hospital or clinical facilities
Yes,
based
but
here.
consider this. You will only go to have your appendix removed once in your life, only once.
Yeah.
So, and you will never have a hospital near your house.
Mm.
So instead of building more hospitals, why don't we get a proper free transport and a proper free parking near the hospital?
Well, that's another
Because that
issue.
is something that can be done tomorrow. If we want a hospital, and we all want a hospital, that will take between 5, in the best, and 10 years.
Yeah.
The central, the medical center in La Cala could be extended to 24 hours tomorrow if they so wish.
Yeah.
So the problem is not having a hospital 10 minutes or 20 minutes driving from La Cala to Marbella. The problem is to be able to go there and to park there. As Sue well says, it is free now, but during many years it was one of the most expensive parking in the area. And do
I
you know
know.
why? Because the government decided that they didn't have money to extend the hospital, so it will be paid with the money they were obtaining from the parking,
Yeah.
which was ridiculous. That's why the hospital was never extended. And now, with the new government that arrived 3 years ago, they are completing the hospital. You
Yeah.
cannot have a hospital by the corner of your street, but what you want is to be able to reach that hospital quickly and park promptly. And
Sure.
also, if you go there with an appendix infection, to be attended in 2 hours and not in 2 weeks.
Right. But we've got Roxanne who says that she agrees with you, Mario. It's really nice to have someone agree with you, isn't it?
Perfect. Thank you, Roxanne.
And Sue is saying that her parents were frequent visitors to the hospital, and her mum was there for nearly 3 months. Well, I can appreciate this because before my late wife died, we were there 4 days a week for 5 years, and it's a very expensive. I was dropping her off, coming back home, picking her up because she was in there for dialysis 3 days a week.
Mhm.
Thankfully, they didn't have this really expensive parking in those days, and you could get parked somewhere. But
Somewhere.
yeah, the costs of that would have just been absolutely astronomical. I couldn't have
Mhm.
afforded it. It would have been cheaper to pay for dialysis in a private hospital or something.
Yeah, but that dialysis could be done also in La Cala, where we have already the infrastructure.
Yeah, but because the upstairs part of the Lacala Health Centre is not in use, is it?
It is as empty as the brain of many people.
I like that one,
And
Mario.
it is a waste. I mean, if we all spend a fortune in concrete and bricks and painting and electric cables and water pipes,
Yeah,
and then we have the building empty, why did we build it?
sure.
And if we have it built already, why don't we put there the machines and the doctors instead of having to wait to make a new building somewhere else?
Right. Okay. Mario, I have a question for you.
Yes.
It's a riddle. What is open when it's closed?
That reminds me of Schrodinger cat in the box. This was an expression that the counselor used regarding some facilities that we did have, but we don't have nowadays, designed for the elderly. Some
Yeah,
30 or 40 years ago, the government, in general, all through Spain, thought that it would be a good idea to have a place where those who are retired and do not need to work would have a place where they would meet, they would have a coffee, sometimes they dance, to make a kind of social life. And all that subsidized with the taxes of those who are still in the age of working, which is fair because one day or another it will be our turn.
sure.
The problem is that the running of those places, which in Spain we call hogar del jubilado,
Yeah,
the home of the retired,
we call them the pensioners' bars usually.
or pensioners bar. But it is not only for a bar, it is also a meeting point. Some
Mm,
people go there just to have someone to talk, because don't forget that I think it is half of those people do not have a spouse, they live alone.
sure.
So they find this place uh, very good for having relations.
Good
Sometimes you
company.
need
Yeah,
someone to talk to, and that may save you a visit to the doctor if you have
sure.
simply a friend to talk to. So they are run by companies that offer a price for a time. And it is the town hall that has to put this public tender every 2, 3, or 4 years. But they haven't done it for the latest 2 years.
Right.
So many of these places have closed and they remain closed. And closed means not open in English and also in Spanish.
Yeah,
So
but
the fact is that the population of Mijas has run out of that facility, which is there. The building is there.
yeah.
We have paid for its construction. It is simply a matter of allowing someone to open and run it and get perhaps €1 for coffee instead of the usual 150 that you pay in a bar.
Yeah, but you know, so we're talking about, for example, the pensioners bar on the seafront in La Cala, and also the one in Mijas Pueblo, yeah? And
Mhm.
people have been asking, what's happening to them? When we asked why are they closed, we were told that they're not closed, they're open, but because but they just
But
happen to
closed.
be closed at the moment. Um, I,
Yes,
I'm I'm not. I thought it was my bad Spanish that confused me on this one, Mario. But that's how can something be open when it's closed? I mean, if you can't go in and get your canya, your little beer, that usually means it's closed, no?
correct. I know someone has been reading the Schrodinger cat and tried to copy some of his ideas regarding the cat being dead or alive. I have some good news. The one in Mijas village will be open very soon. They have
Okay.
organized, they put it up for tender, and someone that is presently running a bar called Confusión in Las Lagunas, very
No,
close to the
yes.
town hall of Las Lagunas, will be opening that very soon. He is just doing some refurbishment, and perhaps in 1 month or so, it will be opening again.
Right. Well, that's good. And the other thing people have been asking about, because I think these operate on a similar basis, well, in Spanish they call them los kioscos, but the kind of bar
Mhm.
restaurants in some of the parks, like in Esparagal, Parque de Andalucía, where else? There's
There
another
is
one.
also, again, in Mijas village, in the top part of these stairs, together with an elevator that sometimes work and sometimes don't.
Right,
There is a small bar there, which is also owned by the town hall, that by law has to be put up for tender every 2, 3, 4 years, and they haven't got time in the latest 2 years to do so, which is
right.
a pity.
Right. So, no news on the sort of park bars, restaurants, but the pensioners bar in Mijas Pueblo should be opening up soon.
Yes, and soon means real soon. So that could be in Spanish language between 30 and 40 days,
All right. Okay.
which is really soon compared with the time we are handling sometimes.
Yeah. Listen, I don't want to go back and forward, but Sue has taken time to make another comment on the hospital thing, and I will just pick up on this. For those in Marbella, that's I think this is to do with the hospitals. We lived, and I
Mhm.
still live in Mijas Pueblo, 45 minutes drive if traffic isn't heavy, and then nearly as long to park and get to the ward. Only one lift to the wards with COVID restriction. One person to in a lift, I think that is. So only three people in lift at the time. Okay, most of us will die in hospital, and it adds an unnecessary stress. Yeah, I do understand. Uh, the hospital situation in some ways, yeah, um, the council can only offer the land to the junta. Am I right, Mario?
Correct, but not only the land. The town hall has to offer the land with proper access, an area to build a parking, and also water and electric connection. And
Right.
sewage. Don't forget the sewage, which is
Solution.
very
Yeah.
important. And the Mijas Town Hall has been saying that they were offering a piece of land since 2017, but they haven't. So in this monthly meeting yesterday, they said that they had offered 2 places, but as nobody has replied, I don't know how many times they asked, then they say they are going to prepare one of them, which is something they could have done 5 years ago, because
Right.
the counselor of the building department said, well, just in case we are going to prepare this land, because if it is not for a hospital, it could be for a residence for the elderly, for
Yeah.
example, which is
Yeah.
good, but it was exactly as good 5 years ago in 2017 when
Mm,
he promised that he would offer that to the Junta Andalucía, to the regional government. So at the end, 5 years have gone by, and we have just moved one paper from one table to another, and
right.
we don't want to call that government.
Right. Okay.
So
I
please
think,
take care of yourself in the meantime, because if you want to have a hospital near you whenever you need it, it is going still to take a long time.
yeah. Yeah. Um, I think the hospital thing is going to be a bit like the coastal train. I think it's going to be going on for a very long time before we actually see anything concrete, to use the pun, happening.
The coastal train will be difficult because we have built all along the coast,
Yeah,
and there is no room for a train. If we make it underground, we will have to destroy, demolish a lot of properties. If we make it on the air, as they do in Japan, it will spoil the view of many people who do not want a train, because they are those who live very close to the beach in
yeah,
expensive houses. Perhaps they are not the people who are looking for a train. And if we do it through the mountains, they will not get a lot of use, because then people will find themselves in a station in the middle of a mountain and they will need a second transport. So
sure,
why then use the train if you can use only your own transport
yeah,
from home to work and
yeah.
back?
But I think the hospital thing is going to drag on for as long as the coastal train argument's been dragging on.
I think the hospital is much easier than the train.
Right.
Don't forget also that the train cannot have bends the same as a road. They need a very wider range
Yeah.
to turn left or right. They can also have 2% slope, up or down, not more than that. So you cannot trace the railway as when you trace a road. You have to make it very soft. There is a nice video, which I will send you later, of, I think it is 2005, where
Right.
they show where the train will go through,
Mm.
which is nice as well, something to remember.
It's part of the sort of Mijas history, Mario.
Yes, well, and let me tell you something. In the year 1975, when Franco was still alive, this line from Malaga to Fuengirola opened, and the Ministry of Transport, that was there in his small Seat, that was the official car those days, he said, and in 2 years this train will reach to Estepona.
All
That
right.
was said in 1975.
Right. All
In
right.
2 years, the train will reach Estepona.
That's been a
And it
long
is
two
still
years.
there in Fuengirola.
Yeah.
It is still there.
Okay, Mario, I want to ask you about this is another issue that is has been going on. I mean, I've been here 20 years and I've heard this coming back and forward for a very long time. And it's to do with Mijas Pueblo, but this actually affects all of us in one way or another, and parking. Um, you know, people are always saying there's not enough parking in Mijas Pueblo. When you were in power, you made a €1 per day parking cost, and that was to
Correct.
encourage people to come to the Pueblo and spend the day there, wasn't it?
Mhm. It also helped to make Mijas more known everywhere. Because when you were asking people, they all said, oh, yes, we know Mijas village in the top of a mountain, a white village with the donkeys. But they didn't go there because the access was not very good and also parking was difficult.
Right,
So we decided to reduce the price to only €1. That has a cost, about 250,000 euros a year, but we thought that could be the best investment we could do in tourism.
right,
Instead of sending someone to go to Paris or to London to bring people, we thought people would come if we would reduce the parking price. And it worked. I mean, we did many other things, but that one worked. However, the new government want to change it, and now you may have to pay €9 every 24 hours instead of only €1 as with us. And also they want to increase the monthly reservation from 30 up to €50.
right.
And I don't think that is, I think it is wrong, but not too wrong. Anyway, they should have explained this better, and they should have built this second parking building that was supposed to happen also 5 or 6 years ago and
Right.
has not even started.
Yeah. So what they are talking about now, because there was stuff published some time ago, and it seems to have changed a bit, but they're talking about first hour free, and that is, I think the idea is if you have to go to the Pueblo to pop into the council building, for example, to do some paperwork, you get it for free. Not not that you can probably do that in an hour anymore, but that's another story. The second hour would cost you €1, and then after the second hour, they are talking, well, this is what they were saying yesterday, it's 70 cents per hour after that for the rest of the 24-hour period. Is that right?
Correct. Correct. I think the mayor said 1 hour for sorry, €1 for the hours from 2 to 5.
Oh,
So
from
the
2 to
first
5.
hour free, the following 4 hours only €1, and after that period, 60 cents per hour.
Okay, okay. But we have no idea if or when this is going to be introduced.
No, and also think on something. If you want to charge 60 cents per hour, you can imagine the problem with the change.
Yeah,
You need to have machines working, because in the parking building, when the machine is not working, the elevator is not working, or both are not working.
right,
So perhaps the amount of money that we are going to get is going to serve only to pay the increase of margin costs. And
right.
also they want to employ a company to run it all, instead of doing that through a company which is owned by the town hall, which is called Mijas Avanza.
Right.
We believe that company is running well the parking space and should also run the others. However, they prefer that someone else does the job, so they have less worries, less concern, but they keep getting the same wage, which is always nice.
Mhm. But you know, parking in Mijas Pueblo is a particular problem, particularly in the summer. You know, when you have a lot of tourists coming, and if you're not there by sort of 8:45 in the morning, you can't get a space in the in the multi-story car park. But parking is a problem, you know, in lots of other parts of Mijas as well, isn't it, Mario?
Yes, the biggest difference is that in Mijas, either you park in the center of the village or you cannot park anywhere. While in Las Lagunas, you can go up or down, left or right, and you will always find a parking, the same as in La Cala. The problem of Mijas village is that as it is in the middle of a slope,
Mm,
either you go up to the old quarry and then make a trip coming back to Mijas, or you can by bus
yeah,
because there will never be enough parking for certain days,
yeah.
as in Easter or in Christmas, and we have to get used to that.
And
So,
it is complicated as well that, you know, people who have bought homes or who, and I'm thinking of foreigners here because people tend to have bought homes in the Pueblo are foreigners. Others that, you know, have lived there in their family homes for generations. I think that may be different, but, you know, a lot of them are living in streets that don't permit traffic. So you can't
correct.
take your car and park it outside your house, and there is no parking in or with these houses. So it is a bit more complicated in some ways, isn't it?
Well, that's a different kind of life. So instead of going to the mall during the weekend, you have to go shopping every day with small packages so you don't need to carry a lot of weight when you are going back home.
Sure.
So it increased the social life if you live in a street with no parking and no car. That's the kind of life that elderly people can afford when they don't have children and they don't need to rush every morning to go to work exactly at the time their boss expects. But
Right.
for those who have children and who need to go up and down, it is better if they find another place with a proper parking and quick access to a main road. But
Sure.
Mijas is the very best village in the area for people who do not have obligation and are free to have their own timetables. Mijas is perfect for that.
Right. So I'm just reading some comments from Sue. Thanks for joining us and for participating. Yeah, Sue's parents' villa was by the Carry, I think that is postcode Mijas. Um, so you know, there are lots of complications. I mean, I think this is maybe something that we will come back to, Mario, and talk about this again. And Sue's also said that, you know, that the parking thing's great for residents. As come July, August, you can't get in the car park. For the town hall or to get to the doctors. Yeah, parking is complicated, but there have been plans, and actually this went out to public consultation a long time ago. There were plans for a second car park, and
Mhm.
well, nothing has happened, Mario.
And let me add something. Some people says, why didn't we build an underground parking in the main square when the square was refurbished? And the reply is very easy. All those houses around that main square were built in the 40s and in the 50s with the kind of concrete and sand that was used at that time. So if we start to excavate that hole that was many years ago a dumping place, it will be a disaster for all the houses all around. But also, and more important, all the businesses in the area will be dead for 2 or 3 years when the works last. And
Right.
even worse, whenever the parking is opened, people will always be queuing outside with their engines running
I mean, yeah,
and being upsetting everybody else because no matter how big you make the parking, in certain days it will be full. It
yeah,
is much better to enlarge the existing parking by making a building attached to it in the front So this will give us the opportunity to make a building like with hanging gardens in a
Right.
slope rather than a flat parking area. And also we could allow the bottom floor with 4 or 5 meters high, so the buses could wait there under cover instead of being outside when the drivers outside waiting with the engine on to have the air
Yeah.
condition. So the perfect solution for parking in Mijas Village is to extend the existing building up front,
Right.
leaving an area for cars and buses to go through underground and for buses to wait for free in that ground floor under cover. And everything could be controlled by the people who is already there. If you build another parking somewhere else, you will need another people 24 hours a day controlling
Yeah.
the access.
I mean, in the UK, Mario, the idea of park and ride is very popular. I don't know if there is a good area for that. I know they've used one of the quarries for some special events and things, but the idea that people park the car and there's a shuttle bus just constantly going back and forward is a very popular idea in some areas in the UK.
Yes, because UK is mainly flat,
Right,
so you can have a lot of plots. But here in Mijas Village, there are no plots to be turned into a parking.
right,
Only that quarry, which is very far from the village.
right. Yeah,
And people who once go to there and then they have to wait for a bus to come down and then another bus to go up, they don't like the experience. We
right.
need to do something to save that, and the only solution is to build a second parking. Perhaps we could leave one building only for the residents who would pay a fair price and leave the other one exclusively for tourists to be paid per hour.
Sure, sure.
That could be a good solution.
Just before we finish, Mario, the question was asked, I think, by ourselves about La Macadilla del Muerto, which there are a lot of foreign residents also have their homes there. When is water going to be brought? We're talking about mains water going to be brought to the Macadilla. What was the answer to that?
Eventually is the key word here.
Right.
So the mayor said that he will bring the water. Eventually, he didn't give a date. It is true that when we were in government, we tried to solve this problem, and we solved it in some parts of that, as in La Rosa, for example, which is a similar area.
Mhm.
But here there were problems between the neighbors, and we couldn't reach an agreement. Don't forget that while the town hall, with money of all of us, make an effort to take a pipe there, the internal pipes have to be paid by those who are living there,
Yeah,
because whenever they build their houses, they save all the cost of building the infrastructure. So
yeah,
that's why they should do it now. And there were problems between people because some of them live there and need the water every day. Some others only go for the weekends, so they could bring their own bottles just to spend the day with a paella and some beers. So
yeah,
there are different kind of people, permanent residents and visitors. And it was difficult to put them in agreement. In any
yeah,
way, we left everything ready for Acosol to supply the water because there is enough water to be supplied, and it is simply a matter of the mayor taking responsibility of his job and signing the documents to have that water there.
right. Mario, our time is almost up, and I know that you've got things that you have to do. Um, we'll go out with Sue's comments. The quarry should be for tourists parking, and us residents need access to the Pueblo for daily life. I'm going to leave it on that note, and let's just see if people agree with that. Mario, thank you so much for joining me, and I hope this information is going to be useful to people. Uh, we'll be back in a month, Mario, after the next council meeting. Have a very good
Thank you, Bill.
evening, and to those of you who have
Always my
joined us,
pleasure.
thanks for joining us. Thank you, Mario.
Thank
And
you. Goodbye.
next week we will be here with this is my diary. We're going to be here with Daniela. So we look forward to that. Take care, everyone. Have a good weekend when it comes, and we'll see you next week at 7. Many thanks.
Goodbye.